The mountain research station stood alone against the white fury of the storm. Snow fell so thick that Do-hyun could barely see 3 meters beyond the reinforced windows. He had been alone here for 6 months, studying weather patterns in one of the most remote places on Earth. Usually he enjoyed the solitude. Tonight something felt different. The wind howled like a living creature rattling the metal walls. Do-hyun sat at his computer, watching the emergency power levels drop slowly. The main generator had failed 2 hours ago. He had maybe 12 hours of backup power left. After that, he would be sitting in the dark, hoping the storm would break before he froze to death. His coffee had gone cold. He wrapped his hands around the mug anyway, seeking any warmth he could find. Outside, the temperature had dropped to -40 degrees. The kind of cold that could kill a person in minutes. The kind of cold that made him grateful for thick walls and working heaters. A beep from his equipment made him look up. The perimeter sensors were showing something strange. There was a heat signature outside, approximately 200 meters from the station. That made no sense. Nothing should be alive out there. No animal would be stupid enough to wander around in this weather. Maybe the sensors were broken. Do-hyun checked the readings again. The signature was weak, but definitely there. It was moving, or rather it had been moving. Now it was stationary. Probably dying if it was anything at all. He should ignore it. Going outside in this storm was suicide. Whatever was out there was already dead or soon would be. He had no obligation to risk his life for what was probably just a sensor malfunction. He could check in the morning when the storm passed. But what if it was not a malfunction? What if something was actually out there, freezing to death while he sat here drinking cold coffee? Do-hyun cursed under his breath. He knew he was going to go out there. He had always been too curious for his own good. His ex-wife used to say that about him. She said it would get him killed one day. Maybe today was that day. He put on every layer of cold weather gear he owned. Thermal underwear, 2 pairs of pants, 3 shirts, a heavy parka, insulated boots, 2 pairs of gloves, a face mask, goggles. He looked like a walking pile of clothes. Good. He would need every bit of protection he could get. Before opening the door, he attached a safety line to his belt. The other end was secured to a bolt inside the station. If he got disoriented in the storm, the line would guide him back. Probably. He had about 300 meters of line. That should be enough. The moment he opened the door, the wind tried to rip it from his hands. Snow blasted into his face despite the goggles. The cold hit him like a physical blow, stealing his breath. This was insane. Absolutely insane. Do-hyun pushed forward into the storm, one hand holding a powerful flashlight, the other gripping a portable scanner. The scanner would help him find the heat signature. If there was anything to find, every step was a battle. The wind pushed against him from every direction. Snow piled up to his knees. He could barely see the flashlight beam cutting through the white chaos. The safety line pulled taut behind him, his only connection to safety and warmth. The scanner beeped. The heat signature was close now. 50 meters, 40, 30. Then he saw it. At first he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. There was a shape in the snow, partially buried in a drift. It was too small to be a person, too still to be alive. But as he got closer, his flashlight revealed something that made him stop and stare. It was a girl, but not a human girl. Her skin was pale blue, like ice under moonlight. Silver markings covered her exposed arms and face, forming patterns that seemed to pulse weakly with a faint light. She was small, maybe 16 years old in appearance, wearing strange clothing that was torn and clearly designed for warmer weather, much warmer weather. She was not moving. Do-hyun dropped to his knees beside her, his heart pounding. He pulled off one glove and pressed his fingers against her neck, searching for a pulse. Her skin was cold, incredibly cold, much colder than any living thing should be. For a moment he thought he was too late, then he felt it, a pulse, weak and slow, but there, she was alive. He had no idea what she was or where she came from, but that did not matter right now. What mattered was getting her inside before they both froze to death. Do-hyun scooped her up in his arms. She was surprisingly light, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. Her head lolled against his chest, those strange silver markings barely glowing now. The journey back was even harder than the journey out. He could barely see, barely breathe, barely think. He just followed the safety line, one agonizing step at a time, holding this impossible creature against his chest, trying to shield her from the worst of the wind. When he finally stumbled through the door of the station, he almost collapsed. He kicked the door shut and stood there for a moment, gasping for breath, his legs shaking from exhaustion. The girl in his arms had not moved at all. Do-hyun carried her to his small medical area. It was really just a corner with a cot and a first aid kit, but it was the best he had. He laid her down gently and began removing her wet clothing. He tried not to think about how wrong this felt, undressing an unconscious alien girl, but her clothes were frozen stiff, and leaving them on would kill her. Under the strange fabric, her skin showed more of those silver markings. They formed intricate patterns across her entire body like living tattoos. In some places, he could see through her translucent skin to what lay beneath. Her bones looked crystalline, catching the light in strange ways. Her chest rose and fell slowly, very slowly. He wrapped her in every blanket he could find and cranked up the heater as high as it would go. Then he just sat there watching her, wondering what he had gotten himself into. She was clearly not from Earth. That meant she had come from somewhere else. A ship, probably. A crashed ship. Which meant others might come looking for her. Others who might not be friendly, but those were problems for later. Right now he needed to keep her alive. Do-hyun checked her pulse again. Still weak, but maybe slightly stronger. Her body temperature was rising, though it was still far below what he would expect for a living creature. He noticed something else. The silver markings on her skin were starting to glow more brightly, slowly, like embers coming back to life. That had to be a good sign. He hoped it was a good sign. Hours passed. Do-hyun sat beside her, monitoring her condition, occasionally adjusting the blankets or checking her pulse. He made hot soup, thinking she might need it when she woke up. If she woke up outside, the storm continued to rage. Inside, a human and an alien sat in a small bubble of warmth and light, both of them far from home in their own ways, neither knowing that this chance meeting would change the fate of an entire planet. Do-hyun woke to the sound of movement. His eyes snapped open and he grabbed the flashlight next to his chair. The storm was still raging outside, but inside the station something had changed. The alien girl was sitting up on the cot, her back pressed against the wall, her silver eyes wide with fear. Those eyes were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were completely silver, with no visible pupils reflecting the dim light like mirrors. She was shaking, not from cold, but from terror. She said something in a language that sounded like music and wind chimes mixed together. Her voice was soft but urgent. She looked around the small station, taking in everything with quick, panicked glances. Then her eyes locked onto Do-hyun, and she pressed herself harder against the wall. He raised his hands slowly, palms out, the universal gesture for peace. Or at least he hoped it was universal. Who knew what gestures meant to aliens? The girl watched him carefully. She said something else in her musical language. When he did not respond, her expression changed from fear to confusion. She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. Do-hyun pointed to himself. Do-hyun, he said slowly. Then he pointed to her and raised his eyebrows in question. She stared at him for a long moment. Then very carefully she reached down to her torn clothing. Her fingers found a small device attached to what remained of her belt. It was damaged, cracked down the middle, but when she pressed it, a faint blue light appeared. She spoke again, and this time a mechanical voice translated her words into Korean. The translation was broken and strange, but he could understand it. Where am I? What planet? Earth, Do-hyun said. You are on Earth, in Korea, a research station in the mountains. She processed this information, her silver eyes never leaving his face. Earth, she repeated, and the device translated it into her language. I have heard of this place. Primitive world. Pre-contact civilization. Do-hyun was not sure if he should be offended by that. Probably, but he had more important questions. Who are you? What happened to you? The girl hesitated. She looked down at her hands, at the silver markings that covered her skin. They were glowing more brightly now, pulsing gently with her heartbeat. My name is the translation would be Nari. There was an attack. My ship, my guards. They are dead. I escaped in a pod. It crashed. I am sorry, Do-hyun said, and he meant it. About your guards. Nari nodded slowly. She seemed surprised by his sympathy. You saved me, why? You do not know me. Your people do not know my people. Why risk yourself? It was a good question. Do-hyun thought about it for a moment. Because you needed help, he finally said. That is reason enough. She stared at him like he had said something completely insane. That is not logical. Helping a stranger, an alien, puts you at risk. There is no benefit to you. No gain. Not everything is about gain, Do-hyun said. He stood up slowly, making sure not to startle her. Are you hungry? I have soup. It is human food, so I do not know if you can eat it, but it might help. Nari watched as he heated up the soup on his small electric burner. She seemed fascinated by everything. The way he moved, the simple technology, the smell of the food. When he handed her a bowl and a spoon, she held them like they were precious artifacts. She tasted the soup carefully. Her eyes widened. This is good. Simple, but good. We do not have food like this anymore. Everything is synthesized, optimized for nutrition. But this has flavor, real flavor. Over the next hour they talked. Nari's translator device worked better as it warmed up and recalibrated. She told him about her world, about cities made of crystal that stretched into the clouds, about ships that could cross the galaxy in days, about technology that seemed like magic to him. But when he asked about her family, about why she was traveling with guards, she became quiet. I cannot tell you everything, she said. It is complicated, dangerous. The less you know, the safer you are. I think I stopped being safe when I brought you inside, Do-hyun pointed out. She smiled at that. It was a small smile, sad and knowing. Yes, you probably did. I am sorry for that. Do not be sorry. I made my choice. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the storm outside. Nari seemed more relaxed now, less frightened. She looked around the small station with curiosity instead of fear. This place, she said. You live here alone, always? For 6 months at a time, Do-hyun explained. I study weather patterns, storms, temperature changes, climate data. It is not exciting, but I like the quiet. You are not lonely? He shrugged. Sometimes. But I prefer being alone to being around people who do not understand me. Nari nodded slowly. I understand that feeling. Being alone is easier sometimes, even when you are surrounded by others. There was something in her voice, a deep sadness that made Do-hyun wonder who she really was. She was young, but she carried herself like someone who had seen too much, experienced too much. Those silver eyes held centuries of weariness, though that was impossible. She could not be more than 16 or 17. Over the next 2 days, as the storm continued, they fell into a strange routine. Do-hyun would work on his research and Nari would watch, asking questions about everything. She was fascinated by the simplest things. The way coffee was made, the sound of wind against metal, the books on his shelf. He showed her music from his collection. Classical, rock, traditional Korean songs. She listened to all of it with complete focus, as if each song was a revelation. When a particularly sad piece played, he saw tears forming in those silver eyes. We do not have music like this anymore, she said quietly. We have sounds, patterns, but not emotion, not soul. What happened to your people? Do-hyun asked. You talk like you have lost something important. Nari looked out the window at the storm. We won. We conquered death, disease, poverty, war. We solved all the problems that plague civilizations. And in doing so, we lost what made us alive. We optimized away our humanity. She paused. Not humanity like your species. Humanity like the essence of being. The struggle, the pain. The joy that comes from overcoming pain. That sounds lonely, Do-hyun said. It is. Very lonely. On the 3rd day, the storm finally began to break. Sunlight started to peek through the clouds. The wind died down to a whisper. Nari stood at the window, watching the snow sparkle in the light. I have never seen weather before, she said. Not real weather. We control everything on my world. The temperature, the wind, the rain when we need it. But this is wild, unpredictable, beautiful. Do-hyun joined her at the window. It can also be deadly. Like it almost was for you, she nodded. Yes, but that is what makes it beautiful, is it not? The danger, the uncertainty, the fact that it cannot be controlled or predicted perfectly. They stood there together, human and alien, watching the sun rise over a world covered in fresh snow. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. In that moment, despite coming from different worlds, different species, different everything, they understood each other perfectly. Later that day, Nari asked him not to report her presence to anyone. Please, she said. If your authorities know about me, they will tell others. And others will come. And when they come, your world will change forever. Not always for the better. What about you? Do-hyun asked. Will not someone come looking for you? She looked away. Yes, eventually, but I have time. A little time. And I want to spend it here. Learning, understanding, being free. Do-hyun thought about the risks, the consequences. The smart thing to do was report this immediately. But when he looked at Nari, at the hope in those strange silver eyes, he found himself nodding. Okay, he said. You can stay. For now. She smiled, really smiled. And for the first time since he found her, she looked like what she was, a young girl far from home, grateful for a second chance. 2 weeks had passed since the storm. The snow had melted enough to make the mountain roads passable again. Do-hyun knew he should have reported the crash site by now. He should have called someone, anyone. But every time he thought about it, he looked at Nari and found another excuse to wait. She had changed in those 2 weeks. She smiled more, laughed at his terrible jokes, moved around the station with confidence instead of fear, but she was also restless. She kept looking out the windows at the world beyond. I want to see more, she said one morning over breakfast. More of your world. More of your people. Do-hyun nearly choked on his coffee. That is a terrible idea. You look like an alien. Silver skin, glowing markings. People would notice. Nari held up a small device no bigger than a coin. This can help. It is a holographic projector. It can make me look human. As long as no one touches me, they will see whatever appearance I program. That is convenient, Do-hyun said slowly. Very convenient. We use them for diplomatic missions to primitive worlds. She paused. Sorry, pre-contact worlds. Your world is not primitive, just different. An hour later, they were in Do-hyun's truck, driving down the mountain toward the nearest village. Nari had activated her disguise. Now she looked like a normal Korean girl with black hair and dark eyes. No silver skin. No glowing markings. Just a teenage girl in borrowed clothes. She pressed her face against the window like a child, watching everything with wide eyes. The trees. The rocks. A bird flying past. Everything amazed her. It is so much, she kept saying. So much life. So much chaos. So much everything. The village was small, maybe 300 people. It had a market square where farmers sold vegetables and merchants sold supplies. Nothing special. Nothing Do-hyun had not seen 1,000 times before. But Nari looked at it like it was the most wonderful place in the universe. She watched an old woman feeding pigeons in the square. The birds flocked around the woman, eating seeds from her hand. Nari stood completely still, tears streaming down her face. What is wrong? Do-hyun asked, concerned. Nothing is wrong, Nari whispered. That woman. She is feeding those birds. They do not give her anything in return. They do not pay her. They do not serve her. She just feeds them because she wants to. Because it makes her happy. Yes, that is what people do. We do not do that anymore, Nari said. Everything has a purpose. A function, a reason. But this is just kindness for its own sake. I forgot that existed. They walked through the market. Nari wanted to touch everything, smell everything, taste everything. Do-hyun bought her street food, roasted sweet potatoes and fried fish cakes. She ate slowly, savoring every bite like it was a religious experience. This is real, she kept saying. This is actual food, grown in actual dirt, cooked by actual people. Not synthesized, not optimized, just real. A child ran past them, chasing a ball. The child's mother called after him, scolding but also laughing. Nari watched them with that same intense focus. They love each other, she observed. The mother and child. Even when she is angry, she loves him. I can see it. Of course she does. That is what mothers do. Nari looked away. Not all mothers. Before Do-hyun could ask what she meant, an elderly merchant called out to them. Young man, does your sister want to buy some fruit? Fresh apples from my orchard. Nari looked at the apples with fascination. Do-hyun bought 2. She held hers carefully, examining every detail. The red skin, the small bruises, the imperfections. On my world, food is perfect, she said. Every apple exactly the same size, same color, same taste. But this apple is unique. It is imperfect, and that makes it beautiful. She took a bite and smiled. They spent the whole day in the village. Nari talked to everyone. She asked the baker how bread was made. She watched the blacksmith repair a tool. She listened to children playing in the street. Every small ordinary thing was a miracle to her. On the drive back, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Do-hyun, can I tell you something? Something important? Of course. My people, we conquered the galaxy. We have an empire that spans thousands of worlds. We have technology that can reshape planets. We have medicine that can keep us alive for thousands of years. But we have lost something that your people still have. What is that? You still know how to be alive. Really alive. You struggle. You suffer. You face death. And because of that, you appreciate life in a way we never can. We have optimized away all the things that made existence meaningful. We do not struggle, so we do not grow. We do not face death, so we do not value life. We have become ghosts living in perfect cities. Do-hyun thought about that. Is that why you did not want to go back? When you crashed? Nari nodded slowly. I have lived for nearly 2 centuries. I have seen everything my civilization has to offer, and it is all empty. Beautiful, but empty. Like a perfect painting with no soul. But here, in this tiny village, with these simple people, I felt more alive than I have in decades. 2 centuries? Do-hyun nearly drove off the road. You are 200 years old? Yes, our medicine is very good. I will live for at least another 1,000 years, unless someone kills me. But what is the point of living forever, if you are not really living at all? They drove in silence for a while. Do-hyun tried to process what she had told him. She looked 16. She acted young. But she was older than anyone on Earth. The idea made his head hurt. Do-hyun, Nari said quietly. Thank you. For what? For showing me that life can still be beautiful. That kindness still exists. That people can care about each other without politics or power or gain. You saved my life, but you also reminded me why life is worth saving. Back at the station, Nari removed her disguise. The silver skin and glowing markings returned. She looked tired but happy. Can we go back? She asked. To the village? I want to see more. Learn more. Before I have to leave. You are planning to leave? She looked sad. I have to eventually. They will find me. They are probably already looking. And when they find me, everything will change. For you, for your world, for everyone. Who is looking for you, Nari? Who are you really? She turned away from him. I will tell you soon, but not tonight. Tonight I just want to remember what it feels like to be happy, to be free, to be nobody special. Just Nari, just a girl who ate apples and watched children play. Do-hyun wanted to push for answers, but when he looked at her face, at the joy and sadness mixed together, he decided to let it go. She would tell him when she was ready. That night, Nari stood at the window looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there was her home, her family, her responsibilities. But here, on this small planet, in this tiny station, she had found something she thought was lost forever. She had found a reason to smile. The next morning, strange lights appeared in the sky. Ships, maybe, searching. Do-hyun saw them through his telescope and said nothing. Nari saw them too and said nothing. They both knew what those lights meant. Time was running out, but for now, for just a little while longer, they could pretend. They could pretend that the galaxy did not exist. That Nari was just a girl. That Do-hyun was just a man. That nothing was coming to tear their small bubble of peace apart. They could pretend they had more time. They could pretend that small kindnesses really could change the world. And maybe, just maybe, they could. Far from Earth, in a throne room built from living crystal, the most powerful being in the known galaxy stood at a window overlooking her empire. Supreme Sovereign Mina had ruled for 3,000 years. She had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had ended wars and started them. She had shaped the destiny of trillions of lives, but right now none of that mattered. Her daughter was missing. Admiral Hyejin stood at attention behind her, waiting for orders. The admiral was old by most standards, nearly 500 years old, but she looked young and strong. Everyone important in the Yonsei Dominion had access to life extension technology. Report, Minha said. Her voice was cold, controlled, but Hyejin could hear the fear underneath. We have traced the princess's escape pod to the Sol system, Your Majesty, a primitive star system with one inhabited planet. They call it Earth. The rebels who attacked her convoy have all been eliminated, every single one. But the princess remains missing. Mina turned from the window. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes burned with intensity. How long since the crash? Approximately 23 Earth days, Your Majesty. 23 days. Her daughter had been alone on an alien world for 23 days. Anything could have happened. The locals could have killed her. The environment could have killed her. She could be hurt, scared, dying, or worse, she could be happy. Minha knew her daughter. Nari had always been different from other members of the royal family. She asked too many questions. She cared too much about things that did not matter. She had this strange obsession with primitive cultures, with the way people used to live before everything was optimized and perfected. If Nari had survived the crash, she would not be trying to get home. She would be hiding, exploring, learning, pretending to be someone she was not. What do we know about this Earth? Mina asked. Yijin pulled up a holographic display. A blue and green planet appeared, spinning slowly. Pre-contact civilization. They have nuclear weapons but limited space travel. Population approximately 8 billion. Hundreds of different nations and cultures. Very primitive by our standards, but they show potential. Potential for what? The analysis teams believe they could reach interstellar travel within 200 years if left alone. They are aggressive, curious, and adaptable. Dangerous combination. Minya studied the planet. Such a small world. So insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. And yet her daughter was there somewhere on that tiny blue marble. Send a covert extraction team, Minha ordered. 3 operatives. They are to locate the princess and bring her home without making contact with the local population. No interference. No contamination. And if the locals have already found her, Minya's expression hardened. Then the extraction team will deal with them. Quietly. Yes, Your Majesty. I will send Commander Jiwoo. She is the best we have. And she was part of the princess's personal guard before the attack. Good. Tell Jiwoo that if anything happens to my daughter, I will hold her personally responsible. Yijin bowed and left to make arrangements. Minya returned to the window, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, across unimaginable distances, her daughter was alone. Or worse, not alone. She thought about the last conversation they had. It had been a fight, of course. It was always a fight these days. Nari wanted more freedom. She wanted to explore. She wanted to live without guards and protocols and responsibilities. Minya had said no. She had said it was too dangerous. She had said Nari had duties, obligations, a destiny. She had said everything a mother was supposed to say. Everything except I am sorry and I love you. Now her daughter was gone, and those words remained unspoken. 3 days later, Commander Jiwoo and her team arrived in the Sol system. They moved in stealth, their ship invisible to Earth's primitive sensors. They scanned the planet looking for any trace of royal DNA signatures or advanced technology. Jiwoo was a warrior. She had fought in 20 campaigns across the galaxy. She had protected the royal family for nearly a century, but she had never felt this kind of pressure. If she failed this mission, the consequences would be catastrophic. Not just for her, but for everyone. I have something, one of her team members reported. Energy signature consistent with royal escape pod technology. Location is a mountain range in the eastern part of the largest continent. Remote area. Very cold. Of course it is cold, Jiwoo muttered. The princess always had terrible luck with weather. They tracked the signature to a small research station. Scans showed 2 life forms inside. One was definitely Nari. The biosignature matched perfectly. The other was human. Male. Approximately 30 years old. Is the human a threat? Asked one of the other team members. Jiwoo studied the scans. Unknown. But he is alone with the princess. That is not acceptable. We need to extract her immediately. Back on Earth, Do-hyun was teaching Nari how to cook. She was terrible at it. She had burned 3 pots of rice and somehow managed to make soup explode. But she was laughing. Really laughing, and that made the mess worth it. I do not understand, she said, scraping burnt rice out of yet another pot. How do you make it look so easy? Practice, Do-hyun said. And also, you have to actually watch the pot. You cannot just put food on the heat and walk away. But that is so inefficient. At home, I just tell the kitchen what I want and it appears. Well, you are not at home. Nari stopped laughing. Her expression became serious. No, I am not. Before Do-hyun could say anything, all the lights in the station went out. The backup power did not kick in. Everything was dead. Complete darkness. Then 3 figures appeared in the center of the room. They materialized out of thin air, wearing advanced armor that seemed to absorb light. They moved with military precision, weapons drawn. Do-hyun grabbed a kitchen knife, which was completely useless against alien soldiers, but he had to do something. One of the figures pointed a weapon at him. He was about to die and he knew it. Stop. Nari's voice cut through the darkness. But it was different. Not the soft, friendly voice he had come to know. This was a command voice, an authority voice, a voice that expected to be obeyed. The lights came back on, dim and flickering. The three figures immediately knelt, lowering their weapons. "Your Highness," one of them said, female voice. "We are here to bring you home." Do-Yun looked at Nari. She stood differently now, shoulders back, head high. Every trace of the shy, curious girl was gone. In her place stood someone else entirely, someone who was used to being obeyed. "Commander Jiwoo," Nari said, "it is good to see you alive." "I thought you died in the attack." "I nearly did, Your Highness." "But I survived. I have been searching for you ever since." Nari nodded slowly. Then she looked at Do-Hyun. He saw apology in her eyes, and fear, and shame. "Do-Hyun," she said quietly, "I need to explain." "Explain what?" His voice was cold. "Explain that you have been lying to me this whole time? Explain that you are not just some random alien? Explain that those soldiers just called you Your Highness?" The lead soldier, Jiwoo, stood up. She looked at Do-Hyun like he was an insect. "This human knows your identity? That is a security breach. I will eliminate him." "You will do no such thing," Nari snapped. "That is an order, Commander." Jiwoo hesitated. "Your Highness, he is a witness. He has seen too much. The protocols are clear. I do not care about protocols. He saved my life. I owe him everything. You will not harm him." Do-Hyun's mind was racing. "Who are you?" he asked. "Really?" Nari took a deep breath. "My full name is Crown Princess Nari of House Yonsei, heir to the Galactic Dominion, daughter of Supreme Sovereign Minha. And I am very, very sorry." The words hit Do-Hyun like a physical blow. Crown Princess, Galactic Dominion, Sovereign. Every word made it worse. "Your mother is the ruler of the galaxy?" he asked quietly. 40% of the galaxy, Nari corrected. "But yes, essentially. And you did not think that was important to mention?" "I wanted to. I almost did. So many times. But I knew if I told you, everything would change. You would not see me as just Nari anymore. You would see me as the princess, as someone important, as someone dangerous, and I did not want that." Jiwoo stepped forward. "Your Highness, we need to leave now. The Sovereign is coming. If we are not back by the time she arrives, there will be consequences." "Consequences for who?" Do-Hyun asked. "For you, for me, for Earth?" Jiwoo looked at him with something like pity. "All of the above." Nari moved toward Do-Hyun. He took a step back. She stopped, hurt visible on her face. "Please understand," she said. "Everything between us was real. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment. I was not pretending. I was just being me. The real me, not the princess. Just Nari." "But you are the princess," Do-Hyun said. "That is who you really are. And I have been harboring the daughter of the most powerful being in the galaxy. Do you have any idea what that means? What happens when your mother finds out?" "She already knows," Jiwoo said. "And she is on her way. Her flagship will arrive in less than 72 hours. And when she gets here, nothing will ever be the same." The small station suddenly felt very small indeed. Outside, the stars looked different now. Not beautiful. Threatening. Full of things Do-Hyun could not understand and could not fight. "I need air," he said, and walked outside into the cold. Nari moved to follow, but Jiwoo stopped her. "Let him go, Your Highness. He needs time to process. Humans are not built for this kind of revelation." Inside the station, the three soldiers stood guard. Outside, a human man tried to comfort Do-Hyun sat on a rock outside the station, staring at nothing. The cold air burned his lungs, but he barely noticed. His whole world had turned upside down in the span of 10 minutes. The girl he had saved was not just an alien. She was royalty. Galactic royalty. The kind of royalty that could probably order the destruction of entire planets. And he had been teaching her how to cook rice. The door to the station opened. Nari walked out, still wearing her human disguise, but moving like the princess she really was. She sat down next to him, leaving a respectful distance between them. "I know you are angry," she said. "I am not angry," Do-Hyun replied. "I am trying to understand, trying to figure out if anything was real. If I was just entertainment for a bored princess playing pretend." "It was real." Her voice was fierce. "Every second of it. Do you think I am good at pretending? Do you think I enjoyed lying to you? I hated it. But I was so afraid that if you knew the truth, you would treat me differently, like everyone else does. Everyone else treats you like a princess because you are a princess. Exactly. They see the crown, not the person. They see power and privilege, not a girl who just wants to be normal. You were the first person in 200 years who looked at me and saw just me. Do-hyun turned to look at her. But that is not who you are. You are not just some girl. You are the heir to an empire. You have responsibilities, power, a destiny. I know, Nari said quietly. Believe me, I know. That is all I have heard my entire life. Your destiny, your duty, your responsibility. Never what do you want. Never how do you feel. Never who do you want to be. What do you want? She looked up at the stars. I want to be free. I want to make my own choices. I want to matter because of who I am, not what I was born as. Is that so terrible? Before Do-hyun could answer, Ji-woo appeared in the doorway. Your Highness, we need to discuss the extraction plan. Time is running short. I am not leaving, Nari said. Ji-woo looked shocked. Your Highness, you must. The Sovereign has mobilized the entire fleet. If we do not bring you home voluntarily, she will come herself. And when she does, this entire planet will be exposed to galactic civilization. That violates every contact protocol. The consequences would be catastrophic. For who? Nari asked. For Earth? Or for my mother's reputation? Both, Ji-woo said honestly. Your Highness, I understand you have formed an attachment to this world and this human. But you have to think about the bigger picture. Millions of lives depend on what you do next. Nari stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. Do not lecture me about the bigger picture, Commander. I have been living in the bigger picture my entire life. For once, just once, I want to live in the smaller picture. The one where I matter as a person, not a political tool. Ji-woo looked like she wanted to argue but knew better. She bowed and returned inside, leaving Nari and Do-hyun alone again. She is right, you know, Do-hyun said. Your mother is coming. And when she gets here, everything changes. For everyone on Earth, you cannot stop that by staying. I know, but I can delay it. Give your people time to prepare. Time to understand what is coming. Or you could go back voluntarily and convince your mother to leave Earth alone. Nari laughed, but it was a bitter sound. You do not know my mother. When she wants something, she takes it. When she is angry, worlds burn. And right now, she is both wanting and angry. She is also your mother. That has to count for something. You would think so. Inside the station, Ji-woo was arguing with her team. We cannot force her. She is the crown princess. We do not have authority to override her wishes. Then what do we do? One of the soldiers asked. Wait for the sovereign to arrive and hope for the best. That is exactly what we do, and we pray that when she gets here, she is in a merciful mood. The sovereign does not have merciful moods, I know. The next morning, news networks around the world started reporting strange sightings. Lights in the sky that did not match any known aircraft. Satellites detecting unusual energy readings. Astronomers finding objects that had not been there before, moving in ways that defied physics. Governments went on high alert. Military forces were mobilized. Emergency protocols were activated, but nobody knew what they were preparing for. They just knew something was coming. In the research station, Do-hyun watched the news reports with growing dread. It is starting, he said. Nari nodded. My mother's fleet. They're not hiding anymore. She wants your world to know something is out there. Wants them to be afraid. Makes the eventual meeting more effective. Is she going to invade? No, worse. She's going to introduce Earth to the galactic community on her terms. Your people will become clients of the Dominion. Not slaves, but not equals either. Protected but controlled. Your development will be managed, guided, optimized. Within a century, Earth will be just another world in the Empire. Unique culture replaced by galactic standard. Individual identity absorbed into the collective. That sounds like genocide. It is. Just a slow, polite kind. We do not kill civilizations. We just make them irrelevant. Do-hyun felt sick. Can you stop it? I do not know. Maybe. If I go back, if I talk to her, I might be able to negotiate something. But I would have to give up everything I found here. Everything you showed me. Go back to being the perfect princess in the perfect cage. Is that such a high price to pay to save a planet? Nari looked at him and he saw tears in her eyes. You do not understand. These past few weeks with you, they were the first time in my life I felt real. I felt human. And now you are asking me to give that up, to go back to being a thing instead of a person. I am asking you to do the right thing. I know, she whispered. I know. That afternoon, military helicopters appeared over the station. Soldiers surrounded the building. An officer with too many medals used a megaphone to demand that whoever was inside come out with their hands up. Jiwoo looked at Nari. Your call, Your Highness. We can leave right now. Disappear before they even know we were here, or we can deal with them. We deal with them, Nari said. No more hiding. No more running. She walked outside, Do-hyun beside her. The soldiers aimed their weapons, fingers on triggers. The officer with the megaphone started shouting orders. Nari removed her holographic disguise. One moment she looked human. The next she was clearly alien. Silver skin, glowing markings. Eyes like mirrors. The soldiers froze. Some lowered their weapons. Some raised them higher. All of them looked terrified. My name is Crown Princess Nari, she said, and her translator device broadcast her words in Korean. I'm not your enemy. I am a refugee who crashed on your world. This man saved my life. Please do not punish him for showing kindness. The officer with the megaphone had stopped shouting. He was just staring, mouth open, trying to process what he was seeing. This is not possible, he finally managed to say. It is very possible, Nari replied, and it is about to get much more complicated. Because my mother is coming, and she is not as nice as I am. Do-hyun watched as more helicopters arrived, then trucks, then entire military units. Within hours, the small mountain station was surrounded by the entire South Korean military, and probably half a dozen other nations' forces too. News cameras appeared. Reporters shouted questions. The whole world was watching now, and somewhere in space, getting closer by the hour, the Supreme Sovereign was watching too. That night, locked in a makeshift command center, Do-hyun and Nari sat together under guard. She had refused to leave without him, and he had refused to leave her, so they were both prisoners now, or maybe guests. Nobody seemed quite sure. I am sorry, Nari said. I ruined your life. You saved it first, Do-hyun replied. Seems fair. She laughed despite everything. How are you so calm? Your world is about to change forever. Your life is definitely over as you knew it. And you are making jokes. What else can I do? Panic will not help. Anger will not help. Might as well laugh. That is very human of you. Thank you. I try. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Do-hyun, no matter what happens next, I want you to know something. You are the best friend I have ever had. The only real friend. And I will never forget you. That sounds like goodbye. It might be. My mother arrives tomorrow. And when she does, everything changes. Then we had better make tonight count, Do-hyun said. They stayed up until dawn, talking about everything and nothing, sharing memories, making promises they both knew they might not be able to keep. Two people from different worlds, different species, different everything, finding common ground in the face of impossible odds. And above them, a ship the size of a city dropped out of hyperspace and began its final approach to Earth. The Sovereign had arrived, and she was not happy. The ship appeared at dawn. One moment the sky was empty. The next something blocked out the sun. It was not a ship. It was a city. A floating city made of metal and crystal and technology so advanced it looked like magic. It hung in orbit, impossibly large, casting shadows over entire countries. Every screen on Earth showed the same image. Every phone, every computer, every device with a display suddenly showed a face. A woman's face. Ageless and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. She spoke, and her words were translated into every human language simultaneously. I am Supreme Sovereign Minha, Eternal Empress of the Yonsei Dominion. You are harboring my daughter. Return her to me unharmed within 1 hour or face the consequences. Then the screens went dark. Panic spread across the planet like a virus. Stock markets crashed. Governments fell into chaos. Religious leaders declared it the end times. Scientists tried to explain the impossible. Nobody knew what to do. In the command center, military leaders argued. Some wanted to surrender Nari immediately. Others wanted to use her as a bargaining chip. Some even suggested hiding her and denying everything. Do-hyun listened to them argue and felt sick. They were talking about Nari like she was an object, a tool, not a person, just like everyone else in her life had done. Enough, Nari said, her voice cutting through the arguments. I will go. You cannot fight her. You cannot hide from her. The only question is whether I go peacefully or whether she comes to get me. And what happens to us? A general asked. After she has you? I do not know, Nari admitted. That depends on how angry she is. That is not acceptable, another official said. We need guarantees, assurances, treaties, Nari laughed. You want to negotiate with my mother? Good luck. She does not negotiate. She decides. Do-hyun stood up. Everyone looked at him. He was just a civilian, just a weather scientist. He had no authority here. But he spoke anyway. Let me talk to her, he said. The room fell silent. Then everyone started talking at once. It was insane, suicide, pointless. He would be killed instantly. But Do-hyun ignored them all and looked at Nari. If I explain what happened, if I show her what you found here, maybe she will understand. Maybe she will listen. She will not listen, Nari said. She never listens. Then I will make her listen. Because if I do not try, if we just give up, then everything we shared meant nothing. All those conversations about hope and kindness and fighting impossible odds, they were just words. I have to try. Nari looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, I will arrange a meeting. But Do-hyun, you need to understand. My mother is not like other people. She has lived for 3,000 years. She has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. She does not care about individual humans. You are all just numbers to her. Data points. Then I will make her care. 20 minutes later, Do-hyun stood in an empty field alone. Military forces surrounded the area at a safe distance, but they had been ordered not to interfere. This was between him and the sovereign. A beam of light appeared. It surrounded Do-hyun, and suddenly he was no longer on Earth. He was somewhere else. A ship, the sovereign's flagship. The room he appeared in was enormous. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal, but moved like water. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. And at the far end of the room, sitting on a throne that seemed to be made of frozen starlight, was Minha. She was smaller than he expected, maybe 160 centimeters tall. She looked young, maybe 30 years old. But her eyes were ancient. They held depths that made Do-hyun feel like an insect under a microscope. You are the human who found my daughter, she said. Her voice was cold, each word precise and sharp. Yes, Do-hyun replied, trying to keep his voice steady. You sheltered her, fed her, protected her. Why? Because she needed help. Minha stood up. She walked toward him slowly, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. That is not an answer. You gained nothing from helping her. In fact, you risked everything. Your safety, your career, your entire world. So I ask again, why? Do-hyun took a deep breath. Because it was the right thing to do. She stopped a few meters away, studying him. The right thing. Such a simple concept. So useless. Right and wrong are relative. They change depending on perspective. What is right for you might be wrong for someone else. I disagree. Some things are always right. Helping someone who is hurt. Showing kindness to a stranger. Protecting the weak. These things do not change based on perspective. You sound like my daughter. She used to say things like that. Before she learned better. Maybe she did not learn better. Maybe she just learned to hide what she really believed. Mina's eyes narrowed. You presume to know my daughter better than I do? I know that for the past month she was happy. Really happy. For the first time in centuries. And I know that going back to you means giving up that happiness. Happiness is overrated. Responsibility matters more. Duty matters more. She is the heir to the greatest empire in the galaxy. Her happiness is not relevant. Then your empire is not as great as you think it is. The temperature in the room dropped. The crystal walls began to frost over. Minya's expression did not change, but Do-hyun could feel her anger like a physical force. You dare insult me? On my own ship? I could kill you with a thought. I could erase your entire species from existence. Give me one reason why I should not. Because your daughter would never forgive you. Mina froze. What did you say? Nari would never forgive you if you hurt me or anyone on Earth. She told me about your relationship. How you have drifted apart over the centuries. How you do not understand each other anymore. If you destroy us, you destroy any chance of fixing that. Our relationship is none of your concern. It is when my entire planet hangs in the balance. Your Majesty, may I show you something? Mina waved her hand. Proceed. Do-hyun pulled out his phone. It seemed pathetically primitive in this place of advanced technology. But he had loaded it with photos and videos before he came. He held it up so Mina could see. The first video played. It showed Nari laughing at one of Do-hyun's terrible jokes. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was genuine. She looked completely, utterly happy. Mina stared at the screen. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted. The next video showed Nari in the village, watching children play. She had tears on her face. Tears of joy. Another video. Nari trying to cook, failing miserably, laughing at herself. Another. Nari watching snowfall. Wonder on her face. Another. Nari listening to music. Her whole body responding to the emotion in the sound. Do-hyun showed her dozens of moments. Small moments, ordinary moments. Moments where Nari was not a princess or an heir or a political tool, just a girl experiencing life. When the videos ended, Mina was silent for a long time. Finally she spoke, and her voice was different. Softer, more human. I have not seen her smile like that in 200 years. Because she has not been happy in 200 years. Do-hyun said gently, Your Majesty, I do not presume to understand your responsibilities or your empire. But I understand your daughter, and she is dying inside. Not physically, but her spirit, her soul, whatever you want to call it. It is suffocating under the weight of duty and destiny, and you think your primitive world can save her? No, but it can remind her what she is saving herself for. Why life is worth living, why hope matters. You have built an amazing empire. You have conquered death and disease and war, but you have also lost something essential, something your daughter found here on Earth. And what is that? The ability to feel, really feel, to struggle and suffer and grow, to make mistakes and learn from them, to be imperfect and beautiful because of it, not in spite of it. Minha walked back to her throne. She sat down looking tired for the first time. You are very brave or very foolish. Possibly both. Probably both, Do-hyun agreed. Let us say hypothetically that you have made some valid points. What would you have me do? Allow my daughter to stay on your world forever? Abdicate her responsibilities? Abandon her destiny? No, just give her time. Let her visit sometimes. Let her maintain some connection to this place and these people. Let her be a person, not just a princess. And let Earth develop on its own without interference. We will make mistakes. We will struggle. But we will grow. And maybe centuries from now we will be worthy partners in your empire instead of just another conquered world. Mina considered this. You ask for much. I am asking for what Nari needs. What your empire needs. What maybe you need too. She looked at him with those ancient eyes. You are an interesting human, Do-hyun. Foolish but interesting. Very well, I will consider your words. But understand this. If anything happens to my daughter, if she is harmed in any way, I will hold you and your entire species accountable. Is that clear? Very clear. Good, now leave. I need to speak with my daughter. The light surrounded Do-hyun again, and suddenly he was back on Earth standing in the same field. He had no idea if he had succeeded or failed. He had no idea what would happen next, but he had tried. He had spoken truth to power, and somehow he was still alive. That had to count for something. Nari materialized on her mother's flagship, expecting anger, expecting demands, expecting the cold, controlled fury that Minha was famous for. Instead, she found her mother sitting on her throne, looking old for the first time in centuries. Mother, Nari said carefully. Sit, Minha replied, gesturing to a chair that appeared from nowhere. Nari sat. They looked at each other across the space between them. A space that felt much larger than a few meters. A space that had been growing for decades, centuries maybe. That human spoke to me, Mina said. Do-hyun, he showed me videos. Of you, laughing, crying, being happy, being alive. Mother, I can explain. No, let me talk. For once, just listen. Minha stood up and walked to a window that showed Earth below. I have ruled for 3,000 years. I have shaped the destiny of trillions of lives. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. And in all that time, I have never doubted my purpose, my duty, my decisions. She turned to look at Nari. But that human, that simple weather scientist from a primitive world, made me doubt. He showed me something I had not seen. My daughter's joy, real joy, and I realized I could not remember the last time I saw you truly happy. Nari felt tears forming in her eyes. Mother, when did we lose each other? Minha asked quietly. When did duty become more important than love? When did the crown become heavier than the person wearing it? I do not know. It happened slowly, year by year, century by century, until one day I woke up and realized I did not know you anymore, and you did not know me. Mina walked over and sat in the chair next to Nari. Not on her throne. Not as the sovereign. Just as a mother sitting next to her daughter. Tell me about your time on Earth. Tell me everything. So Nari did. She told her about the storm, about Do-hyun saving her life, about learning to cook and watching children play and eating imperfect apples. She told her about the village, about the old woman feeding birds, about music that made her cry. She told her about feeling alive for the first time in centuries. Minha listened to it all without interrupting. When Nari finished, her mother was quiet for a long time. You want to stay? Minha finally said. On Earth? No, yes, I do not know. Nari wiped her eyes. I want to visit. I want to maintain some connection to that world. To those people, to Do-hyun. But I know I have responsibilities. I am the heir. I cannot just abandon my duties. What if, Minha said slowly, what if you could do both? What do you mean? I mean, what if we changed how things work? What if being the heir did not mean giving up everything that makes life worth living? What if we allowed some flexibility, some freedom, some room for you to be a person instead of just a princess? Nari stared at her mother. You would allow that? I would insist on it. Because that human was right. Our empire is dying. Not militarily. Not economically. But spiritually. We have optimized away everything that makes existence meaningful. And if we do not change, we will become exactly what he said. A beautiful empty shell with no soul. Mother, are you saying what I think you are saying? Minha smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. I am saying that Earth will remain independent. Protected, but free to develop as they choose. I am saying that you will have the freedom to visit them, to learn from them, to maintain relationships with them. And I am saying that we will begin to change our empire. Slowly. Carefully. Learning from worlds like Earth how to be alive again. But the council will never agree. The nobles will fight it. The military will question it. Let them. I am the sovereign. I have ruled for 3,000 years. If I cannot make this change happen, then what is the point of all that power? Minha reached over and took Nari's hand. I want my daughter back. The real one. Not the perfect princess. Not the political tool. Just Nari. And if that means changing the entire structure of our empire, then so be it. Nari threw her arms around her mother and cried. Really cried. Minna held her, and for the first time in longer than either of them could remember, they were not sovereign and heir. They were just mother and daughter. An hour later, Minha addressed the world. Every screen on Earth showed her face again, but this time her expression was different. Less cold, more human. People of Earth, she said, I came here in anger, ready to punish you for taking my daughter. But I have learned something. My daughter was not taken. She was saved. By one of you. A simple man who did not ask for reward or recognition. He just helped someone in need. She paused, letting her words sink in. That act of kindness has changed everything. Your world has shown me something I thought was lost. The value of compassion, the importance of connection, the beauty of imperfection, and so I make you this offer. Earth will remain independent. You will be given protected status under my authority. No one may conquer you. No one may exploit you. You will develop at your own pace, make your own mistakes, find your own path. In exchange, I ask only that you continue to be what you are. A reminder to the galaxy that advancement is not just about technology and power. It is also about kindness and hope and the courage to help strangers. My daughter has asked permission to visit your world from time to time. I have granted it. She will be your friend, not your ruler. She will learn from you, and perhaps teach you things as well. Consider her a bridge between our peoples, a symbol of what is possible when different worlds choose cooperation over conquest. Do-hyun, the human who saved my daughter, I owe you a debt I can never fully repay. You risked everything for someone you had no reason to help. You spoke truth to power when you had no reason to believe you would survive. You reminded me what it means to be more than just a ruler. Thank you. The broadcast ended. Around the world, people stared at their screens in shock. They had been saved. Not by their weapons or their technology or their military. They had been saved by one man's compassion. Back at the research station, Do-hyun watched the broadcast with the rest of the world. He still could not quite believe it had worked. He had expected to die. Instead, he had somehow changed the fate of an entire planet. A light appeared in the room. Nari materialized back in her human disguise, smiling that smile he had come to know so well. You did it, she said. You actually did it. You convinced the most powerful being in the galaxy to change her mind. We did it, Do-hyun corrected. You showed her that change was possible. I just helped her see it. Nari walked over and hugged him. I have to go back. I have responsibilities, duties, an empire to help reform. But I will visit as often as I can. Is that okay? It is better than okay. But Nari, promise me something. Anything. Promise me you will stay who you are. Not the perfect princess. Not the political tool, just you. The girl who burns rice and cries at sad movies and finds wonder in falling snow. I promise, she said, because you showed me that being imperfect is not a weakness. It is what makes us real. They stood together for a while, not needing to say anything more. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains. The same sun that had risen the day Do-hyun found a freezing alien girl in the snow. The same sun that would rise tomorrow on a changed world. That night, Nari returned to her mother's ship. But before she left, she made sure Do-hyun had a communication device, a way to stay in touch across the vast distances of space. Call me if you need anything, she said, or if you just want to talk, or if you make soup and want to tell me about it, whatever. I will. And Nari, thank you for trusting me, for being real with me, for showing me that the universe is bigger and stranger and more wonderful than I ever imagined. She smiled. Thank you for reminding me why it is wonderful. Then she was gone, beamed back to the flagship that hung in orbit. An hour later, the massive ship vanished, jumping to hyperspace, leaving Earth's skies clear once again. But everything had changed. Humanity knew they were not alone. They knew there was a vast galaxy out there, full of wonders and dangers, and they knew that when the time came, they would face it not with weapons or conquest, but with the same qualities that had saved them this time: compassion, hope, and the courage to help those in need. 5 years passed. Earth developed rapidly, knowing they had time but also knowing they needed to prepare. New technologies emerged, new philosophies developed. Humanity began to grow up, to mature, to understand their place in a larger universe. Nari visited often, sometimes for months at a time, sometimes just for a day. She helped humanity prepare for eventual galactic citizenship, but more importantly, she maintained her friendship with Do-hyun. They would sit together in the mountains talking about everything and nothing, two friends from different worlds finding common ground. She told him about the changes happening in the Dominion, how her mother was slowly reforming the empire, making it less about control and more about cooperation, how other civilizations were watching with interest, how Nari was being prepared not just to rule but to lead a transformation. Do-hyun told her about Earth's progress, about the debates and arguments and struggles that came with knowing you were not alone, about the fear and hope and determination that defined humanity's first steps into a larger universe. One evening, sitting outside the research station watching the stars, Nari said something that Do-hyun would never forget. You know what the greatest thing about humans is? She asked. What? You never give up hope. Even when things are impossible, even when all logic says to quit, you keep hoping.